Hi everyone, Mr. Rubin here, and welcome to another maths lesson. Alright, today we will be looking at equivalent equations, and our learning intention today is you will be able to use orders of operation, so that is plus, minus, times, divide, to solve equivalent equations. Alright, let's get straight into it, shall we? Alright, so what are the need to know. So two equations are equivalent, which means the same, if you can get from one to the other by repeatedly adding a number to both sides, subtracting a number from both sides, multiplying or dividing by a number other than 0, or swapping the left hand and right hand side of the equation. Also, to solve an equation algebraically, you should repeatedly find an equivalent equation that is simpler. We have an example here. If you follow this process here, you can see that we get the 6 down the bottom, and that we have minus 2 from both sides, divided 5 from both sides. But let's look at some questions in a bit more detail so we fully understand what that actually means. Alright, to start with, let's find the opposite of these. So what is the opposite of addition? You got it, subtraction. That's a big minus sign, sorry. Subtraction. Oh, my drawing tool's not working very well, sorry. Subtraction. What's the opposite of that? Plus or addition. What's the opposite of multiplication? Opposite of multiplication is division. Therefore, the opposite of division is multiplication. Now, what is the opposite of something to the power of 2? For example, x to the power of 2. What's the opposite of that? The opposite would actually be the square root of x, or that number. And the same goes for the squared root of 2, or something, the square root of 2 or the square root of x. So let's say we have, I'll do the square root of 2. The opposite of that would be 2 squared. So if you had, for example, the square root of x, this one here, the opposite of that would be x squared. Alright, so why do we need to know the opposites of those? Because we can't solve an equation without knowing these things. Alright, so I hope you can see these in your screen. So we have some questions here. Show the results of applying the given operation to both sides of these equations. So that means that, let's look at the first one. We've got 8 times y equals 40. Okay. What we want to do is get the y by itself on the left and all the numbers by themselves on the right, so that we know what y equals, because we've got y by itself over here, and we can read that as y equals blah blah blah, whatever's on the right. So we need to move this 8 to this side, but how do we do that? By finding its opposite. So this is an 8 times y, so we need to find the opposite of times 8, and that would be divided by 8. So we do that to both sides, and by doing that we cancel that out, and we're just left with y on this side equals, what's 40 divided by 8? 5. Done. Next one, we've got 10 plus 2x equals 36. Now, we've already got we already know what to do up here, because they're telling us that we need to minus 10 on both sides. Why do we do that? Because we've got plus 10 here. We want to move the plus 10 to this side, okay? To do that, we need to find its opposite, and that is minus 10. Although we minus 10 off both sides, they cancel each other out. We're left with positive 2 times x equals 26, because we've minus 10 from 36. Alright, we're now left with 2 times x equals 26. Is the x by itself over here? No. So we need to do that. We need to move the 2 over this side to get x by itself. How do we do that? Find the opposite. The opposite of 2 times is to divide. So we divide this side by 2, also divide this side by 2. That cancels out. We're left with x equals, what's 26 divided by 2? Well, half of 26, 13. There we go, x equals 13. Should we have got the last one? 5a minus 3, whoops, equals 12. First step, plus 3. Is this starting to make sense, guys? Hopefully. So, that cancels each other out. You're then left with 5a equals, what's 12 plus 3? 15. Is a by itself over here on the left? And are all the numbers by themselves over here on the right? The answer is no, because there's still a 5 over here. This 5 needs to be moved over to this side of the equation to get a by itself. We know that that's 5 times. What's the opposite of 5 times? You've got it. Divide by 5. So we do that to both sides. When we do that, they cancel each other out. We are left with a equals, now what's 15 divided by 5? Well, how many 5s go into 15? 3 of them do. There you go. Okay, we have x minus 4 equals 16. Now, we want to get the x by itself. How do we do that? We've got minus 4 here. We want to move that to the right. So we find the opposite of minus 4. The opposite of minus 4 is plus 4. We need to do the same to both sides. That cancels out. We are then left with x equals 20. Alright, next one. 2u plus 7 equals 17. First step, we're going to move this 7 to this side. What's the opposite of plus 7? Minus 7. We need to do the same to both sides. Cancels out. This here equals 10. We rewrite it all and we're left with 2u equals 10. Okay, 2 times u. What's the opposite of 2 times? Divided by 2. We divide both sides by 2. When we do that, they cancel each other out. You're left with u. So that's a u equals. Now what's 10 divided by 2? 5. U equals 5. Got it. Let's have a go at this last one. Looks a little bit different, doesn't it? We've got 40 minus 3 times x equals 22. First thing we want to get rid of is the 40. Now, this is a positive 40, so to get rid of that, we go minus 40. So we minus both sides by 40. When we do that, that cancels each other out, and we're left with negative 3x, because that minus sign is attached to the 3, equals, now it's 22 minus 40. The answer is a negative 22. So we go back 22, or go back 20 spaces, leave us 2, go back another 20, would be minus 22, or negative 22, sorry. Alright, next step, we've got negative 3 times. So we need to go negative divided by negative 3. We divide this side by negative 3. When we do that, we are left, we scrape, they cancel each other out. So you're left with x equals, now it's 22 divided by 3. Well, we know that 3 can divide itself into 21. But not 22. So we can write this as a fraction, although it becomes a positive fraction because it's 2 negatives divided by each other. So we're left with 22 divided by 3. And that would be your final answer, I would say. Alright, so that's it for this lesson. Let's go back to our learning intention. So you will be able to use orders of operation to solve equivalent equations. Orders of operation being, plus, minus, times, divide, and equivalent equations are equations where both sides are equal. So we looked at our need to knows, we looked at the opposite, we need to apply the little opposite theory to solving equations, and then we had an attempt at solving these ones. Alright, so that's it for this lesson. Go and have a crack at some questions now, see how you go. If you get stuck, let me know. Thanks guys.